It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief. It was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. The words of Charles Dickens from the book, A Tale of Two Cities. It has been the best of times and the worst of times since COVID-19 came to dominate our lives. A virus that has changed the world and our daily lives in ways most of us could not comprehend before March 2020. Indeed, it has been the best of times. Babies have been born. My god granddaughters, Amelia, our grandson, Finley, my great nephew, Knox, and many more babies around the world. It's been the best of times. I turned 60 and my sister, nieces, and Rebecca threw me a party. My aunt turned 91 and my godmother celebrated her 78th birthday a week ago today. And it has been the worst of times. My niece Tanita died in April 2020, and my beloved furry baby boy Raspo died 5 months later in September. Protests erupted across the country after the murder of George Floyd by a law enforcement officer. And our own city of Kenosha experienced an unprecedented uprising after Jacob Blake was shot in the back by a Kenosha police officer. George and Jacob were only two of numerous citizens wounded or killed by law enforcement last year. And Bradford UU, this beloved community, has experienced loss. We have not met in our sanctuary since March 2020. I still remember the last service in the sanctuary. We were encouraged to socially distance from each other while standing and sitting, which was awkward for folks who are used to hugging and standing almost shoulder to shoulder. No one present at that last service could have imagined then what the future would hold and what the future would be like with this new mysterious virus. As I reflect back on the last service in our sanctuary, I remember how anxious I felt. The fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of the air I was breathing. Since our last gathering in the sanctuary, some of you have had COVID-19. The majority of us know someone who has had COVID. Some lived and some lost their fight in their lives to the virus. Most of us have had to quarantine at least once. Some of you have lost your jobs, family members, both two-legged and four-legged, and friends, and have to grieve without a hug or a loving embrace while you cry. And Kay Weichel, who was a founding member of this congregation and who was an activist who served on church and community boards and committees, died a little over a week ago. And many of us are grieving her death in isolation instead of in and with this beloved church community. that she loved. Another reminder of how much our lives have changed. Judy Tatelbaum remarks, "The death of a loved one is the most profound of all sorrows. The grief that comes with such a loss is intense and multifaceted, affecting our emotions, our bodies, and our lives. Grief is preoccupying and depleting. Emotionally, grief is a mixture of raw feelings such as sorrow, anguish, regret, longing, fear, and deprivation. Grief may be experienced physically as exhaustion, emptiness, tension, sleeplessness, or loss of appetite. Grief invades our daily lives in sudden gaps and changes, like that empty place at the dinner table or the sudden loss of affection and companionship. The loss of a loved one throws every aspect of our lives out of balance. The closer we were to the person who died, the more havoc the loss creates. I invite you to speak out loud or in the sanctuary of your heart the name of someone or something you have lost since March 2020. Indeed, love does not die quickly. Which is why in so many cultures around the world, there's a designated mourning period. In South Africa, family members wear black or at least a black patch on their clothes for 1 year. On the 1-year anniversary of the loved one's death, there's a ceremony to mark the end of the mourning period, wherein family members remove the black patches and perform other symbolic acts in remembrance. On the 1-year anniversary of my niece's death, Rebecca and I joined members of my family in Delaware and Fort Worth virtually in remembrance of my niece. On the 1-year anniversary of my furry baby boy, Raspo, I don't know what I will do. Love does not die quickly. Judy Tatelbaum continues, whether we are aware of it or not, we pay an enormous price for inhibiting grief. Sometimes the price is a loss of our zest for living that may continue for months or even years. After we suffer a loss, we may have not fully mourned. We may withdraw from others or decide that closeness is not worth the effort. We may simply get into a life pattern of overworking in order to maintain our avoidance. Others of us will need several drinks to get through the day or will rely on drugs. We are living in challenging, uncertain, and stressful times. Our democracy is under attack and the Constitution is fraying at the edges. The Delta variant of COVID-19 is taking us back to the future. The moratorium on evictions is in question. Climate change is linking us in ways that is mind-boggling. I visited my godmother and her husband in the Denver area last week to celebrate her birthday with her. And from the time I arrived on Thursday until I left on Monday, a haze filled the sky. My godmother and her husband commented numerous times that the smoke-filled sky was hiding the usual beautiful view of the mountains from their backyard. Smoke from fires in California and other Western states slowly moving across state lines and borders, polluting the air of red states and blue states without discrimination. To quote Dickens again, it was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. No matter how bone-chilling our winter of despair, we have each other. How we grieve and how we support and comfort others in their grief will have a profound impact on the quality of all our lives. Grief and loss are a normal part of life. We are all touched by it. Grief is a whole body experience. It impacts and influences every aspect of our lives. However, and unfortunately, sadly, most of us are not taught how to process grief. And so it gets stuck in us and gets stuck in our bodies, draining our energy and vitality for life. And so I invite you to join me in a check-in with yourself meditation. I invite you to get comfortable on whatever is supporting your body. Note the sounds in the room, the temperature, the smells, how the air feels as it touches your skin. Bring your awareness to your breath. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose if possible. Note the thoughts and images that are passing through your mind without judgment. Note the emotions and feelings that are present and where they live in your body. I invite you to let go of thinking and analyzing and to open to curiosity and welcome the messengers that arrive at the doors of your guest house. So slowly scan your body, beginning at your crown, the top of your head, and go down to the tips of your toes. And while you're scanning your body, if you need to wiggle and adjust your body to get more comfortable, please do so. And as you scan your body, note the areas of the body that are calling for your attention. As you intentionally check in with your inner self. Scan your body and note the areas that are tense, areas where pain is present, areas that are tight. Mindfully and intentionally, take this time to check in with yourself by bringing your awareness and listening to the messages your body is sending you. Once you bring your awareness to an area that is calling your attention, note the exact location. Note if it has a color, a shape, a texture. What size is it? Is it heavy? Is it cold, cool, warm, or hot? What message is it bringing you? What is the message that your body is communicating to you in this moment? As you mindfully and intentionally check in with yourself. Let scanning your body fall away. Bringing your awareness back to the breath. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose, if possible. And wiggle your toes and wiggle your fingers. And if your eyes are closed, on your next inhalation, slowly open your eyes, coming back to an alert state of mindful awareness.